Material choices can make or break a design, whether it's exterior facade finishes, window and door frames, or interior details like wood, stone, colours, wallpapers and product finishes. What should be the most satisfying part of the process often becomes a tedious, endless rendering process with manual material swapping and revisions. Until now, AI is changing this workflow forever and lets interior designers and architects instantly visualise and iterate on materials in minutes. And in this tutorial, I'll show you how. I'm Chris, an architect based in the UK, and in this video I'll be showing you how to test your material options for things like building facades, internal wall finishes, products, and we'll even be generating some 3D axo views. I'll be using Rayon Design, a fast, modern and intuitive browser-based CAD tool. With Rayon, you can go all the way from concept development to a fully fleshed out, accurate drawing set with incredible workflow enhancers like Rayon's CAD block library, stylizing features and collaboration tools, with the AI panel as the cherry on the top. You can create a free account to follow along in real time or come back to this workflow and apply it to your own projects whenever you're ready. So let's dive in. First off, we'll be testing facade materials for this sample template of a house renovation. Okay, this is the house renovation project. You can see here there's a set of existing floor plans, existing elevations, and then some proposed floor plans and elevations. So we want to concentrate on the elevations. First of all, I'm just going to turn off the annotations so we've got a clean set. We don't want those annotations interfering with our visuals. And then I'll jump over here. So on the left-hand side, we've got our AI panel. If we want to start testing out material options for this facade, I'm going to choose one of the elevations to start with. So let's go with this one down here. It looks like the most interesting one. And I'm going to do a couple of things. So first of all, I'm going to say stylize. So stylize will take your line work and make an image out of it. So we can see here that there's a realistic render. So that's my style option, if you like. And then I can either add a file or add a screenshot. So with the screenshot, I basically take a screenshot of my elevation and that becomes the prompt. So we'll go from there and we'll test this out and see what it makes of it. Okay, great, look at that. So I think it's done a pretty good job ascertaining the surface finish as timber and the base as brick. You can see there it's kind of extrapolated the pitch roofed elements, given it a bit of perspective and then set it within a sort of residential set. So with that, I can insert that image directly onto my page. So that could become our sort of first image, or I can reuse that image. So I can right click that and say reference in the chat. So then that will be taking that image and then I will be adding, subtracting or changing the image in some way. So I'll go to reference that image and I'll say make the white timber cladding black. We're getting a bit more of a Japanese style now. So again, I can insert that image and you can see very quickly we can have a series of tests, a series of iterative options that explore different ideas. If I want to, I can reuse either one of those images, for example. So again, I could reference that same image in the chat. There we go. Yep, spot on. So again, we've got our options, we've got our sort of sub options, if you like. We could even try something really radical and say, let's reference this one. So again, we can insert that image in and that can sit with our series of studies. So we've got a series of options that have been put together very, very quickly. And I can adjust those images how I see fit. So change the dark roofing material to a silver colour. Yep, spot on. So again, very quickly, seamlessly, we are making this series of iterations. Let's try something really wild. Reference in chat. Make the entire building clad in cork. Let's take a look. Not bad, really. Bit of a wild card, but I think that's handled that pretty well. Now, not only can you do materials, we could do things around the surroundings, for example. So let's take our original image and we can say, make this an evening image. Yep, it's handled that pretty well. Reuse that image and say, make this a winter image with a snowman. It's not bad. So again, we're keeping our geometry all the same and adjusting it as per our commands. So let's try one last facade option. Change the window frames and garage door to RAW 6038 green. And we have it. I quite like that. Insert image. Very quick, very easy. You know, it's even understanding different RAW colors that we can reference. Okay, so we could match those, the rest of those elevations to those images if we wanted to. Or we could do something interesting like create a 3D axo. So let's take my favorite version and we'll go reference in chat. And then I'll go create a 3D axo of this building. Look at that, looks good. So I can insert that. And I could almost say those are my preferred options, if you will. So, you know, we could present all of those to the client and say this is what we would suggest. Could even try create a material palette on this image. It's quite good. It's kind of taken screen grabs of each of the elements that I could use. Quite like that. Maybe adjust the sizes. Maybe overlay it slightly. Nice little selection of materials that go well with it. Now we'll be testing materials for internals using this sample template for an apartment renovation. Now using our apartment renovation template as a sort of test bed for these ideas. So we've got a series of internal elevations set up here. So looking one way, looking the other. The template setup has a whole array of drawings, our floor plans, even our schedules and different products. So I'm going to have a look at these drawings here. Again, I want to turn off the annotation, so we've got a nice clean drawing here and here. And again, I will jump to our AI panel. Let's have a look at tools, stylize. Again, we can try render. I will do a screenshot and we'll see what it makes of that. The thing I really enjoy about this is it feels like playing. It feels like you're kind of testing ideas. You're learning the way that the AI is kind of thinking about how it sees things, and you're doing it through a little bit of trial and error, which I quite enjoy. That looks pretty good. Right, so I'm going to insert that image as our base. Now again, I can right click on that, I can reference that in chat, and I can say something simple like make the back wall of the living area a dark blue, for example. There we go. Looks good as an option. And I can even do things like, say for example, I could find a wallpaper blue, for example. I can copy that image. I can put it in here. Now I want to reference this image, and then I want to add a screenshot of this wallpaper, replace blue wall with this wallpaper. So you saw how quickly that was, just copy and pasting in. Wow, not bad. So again, so we've got those options, and then maybe we could think about the kitchen, for example. So again, I can reference the original in the chat, and I could say something like make the kitchen cabinets a solid blue. Good. And I say I wanted to take that option further, so I would just make sure that's the option that I'm referencing when I then prompt the AI tool again. So using that blue color, I could say Make all the timber in the image a darker oak colour. So rather than the light colour, we're going for a darker. There we go. And then say, for example, I want to change the floor. So again, I could find light marble texture, for example. Copy that image. So again, I'll reference this one that I've just done. Image of my marble in. I can add files if I wanted to, so I could have saved that texture and then added it as a file, but I'm just going to do it as a screenshot. Make the wooden floor this white marble. Interestingly, it's chosen to put that within the kitchen, but to be honest with you, I quite like it. So we could say that is one of the options. So you have this sort of marble wrapped kitchen space. Another thing you can do is add in different elements, like more furniture, for example. So we can find a bronze pendant light, for example. Let's go for something jazzy. I could copy this in here, and I could say using that image and a screenshot. And I could say add this pendant light in above the dining area. I could even, for example, say change the chairs into a maybe copper colour. So you can see here, you're just kind of prompting yourself, you're kind of thinking about the design as you go, providing these different iterations, seeing what looks right. You've got that instantaneous feedback. Okay, I mean, I'm not sure why it's chosen to do one of them white, but we'll go for it. And then maybe we could just, again, think about the image and say, turn this image into an evening image. Right. Yeah, that's really good. So let's insert that one as the final one in our set. And then just like before, we can do something like, we could have a chosen or a shortlisted image. Let's say this one, for example, is one that I would go for. And then I can do exactly the same thing. So I'll do a screenshot of here. And then say turn this into a 3D axonometric view. It's pretty good. I quite like that. And then I could do exactly the same thing as before, where I keep a few little crops of the material palette. Just to highlight those different elements. Yeah, I could even bring in my light copy that in, and then I can edit the image and then remove the background. There we go. So you can get that nice overlay effect. Looks good. I wonder if we can reference this one in chat and say add in circular dining table. Very good. Yeah, spot on. So I'll replace that with that. And then maybe I could even remove the background from this. Do that. I quite like that, where they're overlaying. That looks quite good. And I can even, for example, let's see if we can stylize this into a realistic look rather than being a line drawing. Yep. maybe I'll just make a little composition. There we go, all very quick, all very interesting. Right, now using that same template, we're going to be exploring alternative finishes for our objects and materials. Okay, within that same template, we've also got a bathroom set of information. So you can see that here with a kind of selection of different products, some materials, and a internal render. You can also see different types of light fittings and different materials, different color palettes. So let's see what we can do here with our AI panel. So first of all, I could select one of these items and I could say a screenshot. I can put a frame around that and I could say make this brass, so rather than black. There we go. So I can insert that very easily. So it's almost like I could have an alternate color palette, for example. You know, like before, I can remove the background of that. Perfect. You know, I could do the same with this one. So exactly the same. I would add a screenshot. Make this brass. Perfect. So again, I will edit, I'll remove background. You can also adjust the exposure and the contrast and the saturation and upscale if you want to. I could say maybe I'm happy with the toilet, that looks good. Maybe we'll say, for example, make the vase terracotta, if that's how you spell terracotta. Brilliant. So again, I can insert that, I can edit it, I can remove the background. Perfect. And then lastly, I could take a look at the towel rail. And again, let's do something fun. Change the towels to have this pattern. And why don't I find a green pattern? This one looks interesting. Copy that, paste that in, add a screenshot. Again, I could have saved that as a separate file. I'll go from there. Great. And then I can arrange these nicely, bring that one to the front. There we go. So I have a sort of alternate palette, and then let's take a look at the overall image. So once again, I'll just do a new window. I can take a screenshot of my image, and I can say change the marble to be a terracotta polished plaster, for example. That's pretty good. And I could keep iterating on that. So as long as I'm right clicking, saying reference in chat, and then we could do something like, well, why don't we do green terrazzo floor, for example. Oh, that one's nice. So I can copy that image, copy that in. Again, I will say I'll reference this one in chat. I'll add a screenshot, put that in, and then I'll say make the floor this green terrazzo. Wow. Yeah, interesting. So again, I've got this. Maybe I'll keep that as my material swatch. Maybe I'll say make a terracotta material swatch that matches this image. Perfect. So again, I can insert that image. I'll just crop it down slightly. I might just edit it and make it slightly brighter. Perfect. And then maybe last but not least, we could add a woman standing at the mirror. There we go. Not bad at all. Okay. So that's our alternative version of this. Obviously we could set it out similarly so we could have a sort of consistency in our language. But hopefully you can see that that comes together incredibly quickly, you know, with a variety of different options. And not just materials, but, you know, kind of products as well. Now with those options created, we can produce a quick design presentation to issue to our client. And now let's take these two material options that we've sort of studied and create a quick presentation out of them. So I'm going to close my AI window and I'm going to go over to canvases. So say these were my options. I want to now show my collaborators or my client, for example. So I'll go to a new paper canvas. I'll create a page and I'll say it's an A3 page. So we've got 2 pages here. And I will go to my block library, which is just on the left hand side. I can go to libraries and I can find a title block. So I can find a title block here. I'll just scale that down and copy one across. So obviously with that I can set up my own standard one as my business or practice. And now I'm going to import those views. So I'll go to view and go to import, which is where my model canvas is. And I can start with my original view, which is here. Maybe I'll scale that down slightly and then I can copy across. Obviously if these are drawings, I can scale them as well. Little material palette and our view there. Maybe I'll make that a bit. And then I could do a similar thing with the next option. So I'll just pan over because I'm looking back at that canvas. It's just a almost like a window, you know, looking back into it. So we've got that there. Obviously I can add things in like text, so perspective view. I can change the size of the font. Material palette. Yeah, and I could have something that says, you know, option A and option B, and then maybe I can reference back you know, my bathroom layout. Which is here. Okay, so those are two very clear, very clean layouts, and then I can do a number of things with those. So I can export them as, you know, PDFs, images like you would traditionally, or I can share them. I can send them to my collaborators, so someone I'm working with, or maybe my boss for review, or I can send them to a client. So I'll go to share, which is up in this top right hand corner, and if I wanted to invite somebody else, so say I could invite myself, you know, for this example, and then I can add them as either an admin, an editor, or a viewer. So say I added them as a viewer, they could review the work, and they can also even do things like add comments or markups on top of those drawings, which is really, really helpful because it keeps everything within the platform. If I want to send it to a client, I can send it as a presentation. So if I click on here, both those pages, or however many pages that I've created, will then be published to this link. And I will open that. there we have it here. So you can see there, we've got our option A and option B, all there on sheets, all looking good. And the really great thing is if I updated that, so let's say, for example, I was going to change this to, I'll just talk about semantics, but change that to option 1, change that to option 2, because now that's been updated. When I go to presentation, there's a little update button. So all we need to do would be to update that. So using that same link, we'll just be able to update the presentation. So you see there, now we've got option 1, option 2, and that's it. That wraps up this tutorial exploring material choices in architecture and interior design. We've iterated on external facades, interior finishes, and even products. With this approach and the integration of AI, you can explore design options so much faster, communicate your ideas more clearly, and deliver those client-ready visuals without leaving your browser. If you're looking to speed up your process or elevate the quality of your presentations, Rayon Design is here for you. It's a new generation, effortless CAD tool for architects and interior designers where you can go from A to Z architectural documentation in a collaborative space. To try out all the options I've shown in this video, make sure to create your free Rayon account using the link below. It only takes a second and you'll be able to jump in and start exploring your own material choices. And if you have any ideas for exploring the power of these new AI tools, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you're experimenting with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.